Hello and welcome to another Capture the Flag edition of Daryl Show Your Work, episode 81 to be exact. So in this episode, I will be searching for a hidden flag, and I'll be doing this by exploiting the RDP protocol. So what the RDP protocol is the remote desktop protocol port 3389. So what that is think in terms of any time that you may call a customer service, a help desk, and they would like to remote in to your machine to see what's going on or to be able to fix the problems that you have on your machine remotely. All right, so this protocol is what enables from a distant machine or remote machine to be able to log into your local machine and enter into your desktop. All right. So as always, anytime that I do any sort of offensive security or red teaming sort of activities, I like to preface it by saying that this is only for research, educational, and ethical purposes only. Any sort of malicious actions that may come for some directly or indirectly from someone watching one of my videos, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. All right, so to get started here, that we can see that I've already done the recon in terms of finding our target host, which in this video is going to be located at 10.3.23.53. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this target host is I'm going to do some further enumeration on it, and we're going to look for some open ports that may be utilized by the RDP protocol. So remember, I said it's port 3389, and that's something to keep in mind as I go through this. All right. So let's do a service scan. Then we're going to do our operating system scan. And because of the nature of the scan, it may take a while. So it's going to take some patience as far as nmap running here. All right, let's get that going. And as we're waiting, feel free to, just fast forward this part of the video. Again, as this particular nmap scan may take a while to complete. All right, finally. Okay. So scrolling up a little bit so we can view all the output here. All right, so we don't see port 3389 open. All right, so we see a lot of other ports open. Actually, a lot of miscellaneous ports that are often not open. A lot of RPC related ports. All right, but the port that we actually want to pay attention to is port 3333, which is actually an alternative port that's often used for the RDP protocol. And another thing to keep in mind too is even when port 3389 is open, it rarely says under the service category that it rarely calls it remote desktop protocol under that, or you'll rarely see RDP. Occasionally you will, but rarely you will. And just most people that that work in IT or cybersecurity tend to know that port 3389 is designated by default for remote desktop protocol. So because we see that port 333 is open and being utilized, we need to find a way to verify if this is indeed being used for the RDP protocol in order to continue with this. So there is actually an auxiliary scanner that we can use in the Metasploit framework to verify this. All right. So as usual, I'm going to start up the Postgre database, and then I am going to then start up the MS console directly after that. All right. And right here, I'm just combining those two steps here. All right. So I'm going to create a workspace for this activity, and we're going to call it RDP. All right. Just make sure that everything is all right there. Yep. Okay. So we're in RDP. So I'm going to set our target host as a global parameter, so I don't have to continue to keep setting that using different modules in the Metasploit framework. So let's just paste that here. All right. So that should already materialize no matter um, what module I use here while in the Metasploit framework. All right. So the next thing that I need to do is remember we want to find something that specifically scans the RDP, looks for the RDP protocol, and that can help identify when a particular port is running that. All right, so I'm going to write search, and I'm going to say RDP, say scanner. All right, and there's actually appears to be one RDP scanner, and it says here identifies endpoints speaking the remote desktop protocol. All right, so and more than likely this tool was created due to exactly because of what I said, because you rarely find, even when you're doing enumeration activities with a tool such as nmap, that it'll actually return to you saying that um, um, port 3389 or any other alternative port is running the RDP protocol. So it's necessary for a tool like this to help us to identify when that's being utilized and on what port that's being utilized on. So I'm going to say use 0 since that's the only tool available. All right, and I'm gonna say show options, so you see what parameters need to be set. All right, so again, we see our host is already set for us, and then so if we notice that by default it's set to 3389. So because we saw that port 3333 was open, which is an alternative port for the remote desktop protocol, we're going to change this here to that, and it looks like everything else should be good to go. All right, so I'm gonna say set RPORT set to 3333. All right, and let's run that, and let's see if that is indeed running the RDP protocol. All right, that came back very fast, and bam, right here it says detected RDP on 10.3.23.53 port 3333. All right, so that, and it just gives us all the different machine names and things like that. So it's confirming that indeed that port is running RDP. So this is a great tool to use when you just want to make sure you need clarity that whether it's port 3389 or suspected alternative port to RDP is running the protocol, this is a great module to run against that. All right, now that we've gotten that information, um, now what we can do, we can try to brute force some credentials. So now I'm going to use the Hydra tool to try to brute force that port, that RDP protocol, to see if we could get some username and password combinations in order to try to log in through that protocol and into the local host hosting that. All right. So in order to do that, let's see. I'm actually going to exit out of metasploit-framework. All right. So to start up Hydra, I'm going to say Hydra. All right, dash capital L. All right, for this is for the list, and I'm gonna give it this username location, the username list location. So say user share, and it always does that. Exploit dash framework slash data. See, word list, and then the name of that word list that we're going to use is common underscore users dot txt. All right, and then I'm put a dash capital P, and now I want to specify where that word list that we're going to use to try to crack the password. It's in the same directory, but it's a different file, of course. All right, and the name of that file is Unix passwords.txt. All right, then I'm going to say RDP. And similar to how we would put a URL if we were in a web browser, I'm going to say colon slash, and then I'm going to give it the target host. All right, and then dash S, and then we're going to specify port 3333. All right, so let me just check my syntax here. Share metasploit framework data wordlists. Common users. Share metasploit framework data wordlists. Use passwords. All right, so we should be good to go. All right, and let's run Hydra. This shouldn't take nearly as long as my previous video where I ran a brute force attack. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but not a whole lot of time. All right, so we got our first username password combination here. So we got a username of sysadmin and a password of Samantha. So what's happening here is that while it's getting these username and password combinations, I'm sorry, and then I'm sorry, it's trying to make it's using something called FreeRDP to try to make that connection um, using these credentials, but it's not working within the Hydra application, which is no problem because we're actually after this is we're going to use the free RDP tool to use these credentials to try to make our own connection with that application. And I'll go further into what free RDP is. All right, so we have some more username and password combinations. We have demo, password Victoria, auditor, password Elizabeth. Again, the same theme of common usernames with women last names. So very interesting combination of username and passwords. All right, and then we have administrator and qwertyuiop. All right, which is the same username and password that we actually found in the last the last video that I did when we were conducting a brute force. So because admin is probably the most powerful account here, administrator, excuse me, I'm gonna use this account next when it comes to try to logging in with the RDP protocol. Okay, so that looks like is it. See, told you not too long. Took some time, but not really long. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to log in to this remote host using the free RDP tool, and I'm with this, that's going to allow me to use these credentials to be able to make a remote connection to this machine. But to give a high level definition of what that is, so free RDP is a free open source implementation of the remote desktop protocol and offers client server solutions for remote Windows desktop access. All right, so this is what's going to allow me to be able to again remotely log in to this machine that's hosting the RDP protocol. All right. So in order to get started on that, I'm going to say xfreerdp, right, slash u for user, then colon, and then so I'm going to specify the user here, and that is administrator. All right. And then I'm going to say slash p colon, uh, and there goes the annoying autocomplete on my machine. All right. Back to the command line. All right. QWERTY as in the keyboard setup. UI OP. All right. Then I'm gonna say slash V. All right. And here's where I give it our target IP. Okay, hold on. Not sure why it's not pasting no more, but no worries. I'll recopy that. There we go. All right. And then give it colon, then port 3333. As far as the port we want to connect to, just check in my syntax here, make sure everything's ready to go. All right, and let's hit enter. All right, so I'm gonna tell it yes. All right, look at there. We got us a connection to a Windows Server 2012 machine. All right, so remember this is a capture the flag um, edition of my show here. So let's now that we've gotten onto the target machine and not just through the command line, we actually have a GUI session here again because this is the remote desktop protocol. So this is about getting access to the target's actual desktop. and where we can visually see the desktop and not necessarily just see the contents of the computer from the command line. All right, so I'm going to go here to the Windows button here. All right, so let's go inside a computer, do some looking. All right, so it's the local drive C appears to be the only drive, and bam, there's our flag. And inside, we just got port number 33333. But again, like I always say, the flag is just a representation of sensitive information. So if I was able to do all of this and get this active session to this machine's desktop, dig around and find sensitive information instead of a flag, then I could take that information and I can exfiltrate it to wherever I want to exfiltrate it to, or do whatever harm I wanted to do by inputting any type of malicious payloads, or whatever else your imagination could think of. All right, so that brings me to the end of my video, but I want to give a high level overview of what I did here. So started out already having our target host. All right, so I used the nmap tool to then further enumerate that host to see if the RDP port was open, at least the default port was open, which I wasn't able to find after that very long scan. But I did find the often used alternative port for RDP open, which is port 3333. So I wanted to verify if that port was using RDP, because usually the feedback that we get from a lot of enumeration tools doesn't directly tell us whether ports are running RDP or not, even when it's on that default 3389 port. So I utilized a module within the Metasploit framework, the RDP scanner, and once I ran that against the target host, it indeed verified that port 3333 was running an instance of RDP. So since I was able to find that out, then I used the Hydra tool to try to brute force that protocol. And because there was such a weak password policy, I was able to guess at least like the passwords of 4 accounts within a matter of minutes. Okay, so basically used the administrator account, the credentials found for that, made a connection to our target host by using a tool known as FreeRDP, giving it the user credentials that I found, successfully connected to a Windows Server 2012 machine, digged around a little bit, and found our flag. Again, that flag always represents sensitive information. So the major thing to take away from this video, again, as always, anytime I do any sort of brute forcing activity, even if you do something clever, like like assign RDP to a lesser known port, or to a port that's not the default port, and it's not very obvious to somebody who's doing enumeration. There's ways that they can verify that. And if you have a weak password policy, well, then they'll just brute force it and use a tool to then get into your machine through that vulnerable port. All right, so having a good password policy is vital. Having a good password policy involves a good complexity as far as allowing special characters, capitalized letters, length, and then also the amount of days that you require it to be changed. All right, so keep that in mind, and that's a lesson learned from this video. So please like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself, and God bless.